Okay, hello everyone to our newest episode today with Toon on leading the change. And we have today a very hard hit because Toon needs to go to step in another meeting. However, though, let me first introduce you to our guest. Um, 20 years plus career in global financial markets as a risk IT specialist and architect. He joined in 2016 the blockchain team of ING, where he contributed to research and evaluated several use cases in commodity trading. As a senior member of the ING blockchain team, he contributed to the start of FACT and Comgo, selecting the technology and IT partners, and helped in parallel also build these successful startups from the ground up. Following the incorporation of Comgo SR in 2018, he joined as their CTO and went to Geneva. In 2020, he returned to the Netherlands, where he started working as an independent consultant, supporting and building various startups with an innovative angle. And in May 21, he joined Fosbor, where he guided the implementation and run the innovation research as their interim CEO, building a next generation commodity exchange. So he is ready now to start his next adventure with FairChain, where he will develop the technology that connects consumers and companies to impact programs in countries such as regions such as Eastern Africa, using the force of a public blockchain and radical transparency on the complete value chain for brands that dare and therefore matter. And I think that if I had to sum it up, Toon's passion is to be there for the good of the planet and a fair distribution of wealth. Now, before I dive into the first question, just as a reminder, Hans-Peter and I will ask some question for approximately 20 minutes to 25 minutes to Toon. If you have some, please write them down, and we'll try to take some of your questions. However, though, you can always stay in touch with Toon also after our webinar. And meanwhile, enjoy. And I will go into the FairChain topic. Can you maybe Toon, for the sake of understanding, what is FairChain and what does it aim?
Okay. Yes, FairChain is a tech company, and it aims to provide a technology stack that would help companies make their value chain completely transparent and show how impact is delivered from the programs that they run. So many companies are finding the products in Africa, they farm them there, they transport them over to the Netherlands or to any other country where they get sold in the supermarket. And what FairChain does is basically connecting the commercial process, the value chain, to the product being farmed from the consumer to the farmer, so to say. So it's a bit of knowing your farmer and knowing where the product is coming from. And that is, of course, a challenge for many companies and people. But by making the value chain completely transparent, we show them through every step and know exactly what kind of impact was delivered where.
Okay. So, Don, if I just to summarize, I think what you said, and Katrine, so FairChain is a technology company, and you talked about radical transparency in the whole value chain, whole supply chain, connecting all the dots. It all sounds great, but why, first of all, how can you ensure this really radical transparency? And why is it just only now? Why is that not already, I would say, the last 10 years? What do you think?
It's good that you mentioned that, Hans-Peter. Of course, the times are gone where you could simply make a statement, a green statement, or to put a green leaflet on your package, right? So people and also governments demand that when you have an operation, that you make sure that you understand how the goods were produced and what kind of energy and pollution was generated, and CO2 footprints are also like a normal case already. On top of that, these days you have like the impact of deforestation on the global planet and the climate, and that's also getting very accurate and actual for many people, including us in Holland, where of course we need to mind the sea levels. But also, young populations are very engaged with this topic, and making things transparent, showing what has been done to fight deforestation in the area where your products are coming from, is like a good way to also show that your product at least did not make it worse. And some of our programs, like reforestation programs, actually will indicate how, whilst producing the goods on the floor for the people to consume in the northern hemisphere or in the developed countries, we still have reforestation programs, for instance, to make it even better. So to let the forest grow and make like a positive impact on the CO2 footprint.
Now, for non-tech geekies, like I think I'm interested, but you are the expert. How do you do that? So you talked about technology. So how can you ensure that this transparency, that it's not just a word on your website, but how can you really ensure this transparency? What technology is behind? And please, in simple words.
Well, in a few words, it's nothing to do with technology, Hans-Peter.
Okay.
So to really deliver the proof, you have to be there. You have to have foots on the ground there. You must have an operation there. You must be a recognized partner. You cannot do business remotely from here and put like a magic technology wand on that region to make it all good. No, you have to be there. You have to work with independent auditors that can confirm and verify that. And when you build your verified data, the proofs that go along with your claims, then what we do as a technology firm, we put them into an asset token, and that asset token describes that physical asset or that impact that has been delivered. And we make sure that the people that have caused that positive impact will receive the rewards in the form of tokens. And since these people are normally living there where there's like a big economic struggle to stay afloat in your life, we make sure that those people will find shops and ways to spend these tokens to buy things that they really need. And also for that, you need food on the floor in that local area, because we are currently like overloading them perhaps with stuff of course they need, but do they need that many of the same products every time around?
So from what I hear from you is that you're basically transforming the value chain, the commodity chain. Can you explain how do you do that? Because this is pretty, FairChain is not the only organization, but it is disrupting and changing the traditional way of approaching commodities and also the value chain, right?
Yeah. Now it's a tough task, of course, to organize yourself well around these subjects. What it takes also is a brand, for instance, that wants to go open, that wants to open themselves up for these verifications of the results. And that's what we are looking for. We are looking for smaller brands and corporations with those brands to make these value chains totally visible, also for the first mile from farmer to the airport, right? That's very important. Also work with local communities and co-ops. Co-ops are usually the big corporations that connect a lot of these smallholders. You must imagine you have like tens, thousands of farmers there, all like small families, small farmers that only take care of a small piece of land on which they build crops. Yeah, we make sure that these farmers are equipped with the best means possible to build the products that are actually also required, and also in the mix throw products that are locally used and needed for their consumptions, because you can start produce everything that you need in the developed world and forget all about what people actually need in Africa. That's not going to work either. So there's a lot of attention on teaching, on showing, and for instance also biocompost, right? The right compostations for the farmers to use to build like great plants and trees. That's what we do as well.
Okay, so you are, if I understand it correctly, so the technology and the disruption is really by creating this full transparency from the first step, let's say the farmer with all the data. And you rightly said before, technology is one thing, but it's not, it's the enabler. You need the people really up front. And you said before, if I have that right in my mind, if we go down the value chain towards the consumer, you also, consumers can make impact in the whole, closing this whole loop. There, you talked about impact programs, so can you elaborate a little bit on that, how FairChain is a product?
I can make it very visible through a good example, right? So we call them loyalty programs, because the loyalty programs are ways to connect consumers to brands that do good for the world and the farmers in those areas. For instance, coffee. I can go here in the supermarket and buy my favorite Moji coffee, and in that coffee, a bag of beans, I find a token, a QR code that I can scan. If I scan that token, I am asked if I have an account, and if not, an account will be created for me. That token is loaded up in my account, and then I can spend that account on an impact program. At the moment, we have an impact program called New Trees. So the trees that the farmers can plant. And we have like with the local corporations, we have a farm where these small trees are like nurtured and grown. And then when you have a farmer delivering his beans there to the farm, for every 10 kilos, he has the option to get a free tree from that farm. And a tree is actually a tree that is really attributed and connected to a token being spent by an end consumer. So by the moment that you spend the token from your wallet on a tree impact program, which is also helping the carbon profile improvement, then that's how you can immediately as a customer direct your impact. And this is just the first example of a good program, but we are there to develop many more impact programs and many more ways for consumers, but not just consumers, also companies, to direct their marketing budgets towards impact programs with verifiable proofs.
So you're basically building a whole suite of impact programs. You've started with one, and you're gradually making them grow. How does technology, especially we can talk about blockchain, support FairChain's mission for transparency and the impact verification? And this brings me to an additional aspect. What are the risks that are involved in general? So 2 questions, basically.
Yeah, that's the risks involved. And the other question, Catherine, if
The
I
other one is, how does technology support, like blockchain, support the transparency and the impact verification?
Yeah, being a blockchain expert, you often forget the theory, and if the theory is all well known by everyone, right? But yeah, to first start explain blockchain in a nutshell, you must see that as a ledger. So it's one database, one ledger that, and you can write in that ledger. Everyone can write in that ledger. That's what we call a public blockchain. So in that ledger, it is told and can be verified by every user of that blockchain that I have that many tokens in my wallet. So that's what we call the transparency. But if you have an asset token, for instance, you have purchased an asset token of a tree, and then you have like the unique identification and a picture of that tree connected to your wallet, also visible on the blockchain. And the tree comes with GPS coordinations, so you know exactly where that tree is located. And this is just a simple example of how blockchain can aid in the transparency. Now, blockchain is also cryptocurrency, right? And with cryptocurrency, many people will have the idea, okay, this might be a fraud or this might be something fishy. That's not it. We do not use blockchain to transfer. Of course, we transfer value using blockchain, but these are tokens representing value, right? The real tree is still in Africa, um, and um, and we can verify the facts because we know that the tree exists. Photo has been taken, GPS coordinations are known, and all of that. But for the payment, we do not depend ourselves on that blockchain technology, although we could, but we choose not to. So only the tokens can be spent in a kind of token shop in let's say Africa. For that, the farmers will get the products, get the benefits, all the things that we want to source out of such a token shop or instance. And then, of course, that shop will collect a lot of tokens, and that shop needs real money to sustain, right? That's also part. So for that shop, we will then develop like payment services and interfaces so that the shop can present the tokens that they collected to an exchange to get real hard currencies back for that. And that's using the normal payment interfaces. So that's not making it risky in terms of like cryptocurrencies, coins, riskiness.
Yeah. Okay. Another point. I think I don't know if you said it or in a preparation we talked about you said, okay, partnership and FairChain is the technology and this is the foundation, but of course you want to work cooperations. Mochi Coffee, you just named, I think the coffee industry, of course, is a very complex and a good example to start with. But there are also NGOs. So what is and I was reading on the website. I think FairChain talks about impact consortia, this cross-sector partnerships. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything? Is there anything in the cooking? So Mochi was the first step. Can you share already something with the audience, or is that too premature?
It would not be confidential, but I simply do not know exactly the NGOs and the impact consortia that we had in mind exactly precisely. But indeed, through these partnerships, we will build like the communities that we require to build auditing on the factual tokens that we represent on our platform, right? So for that's one consortia. And then you mentioned NGOs, Hans-Peter, and I know this is like the old-fashioned support for developed countries, right? A lot of money is going there from governments that would like to offer aid in the region. what we try and do step by step with our product is also to build an alternative for that, and maybe even a vehicle for NGOs to deliver the impact and their programs exactly to the right areas. Imagine schools being built, right, and an impact program being defined for building that school. Our technology could be directing to that cause, and then like bigger firms and NGOs could be involved in that whole process.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, one of our auditors or viewers is asking a question. Let me show it on a screen. Wong, I mean, you're now visible. You have already mentioned education and collaboration and building some physical facilities. By my impression is that economic viability is also crucial for all stakeholders involved for things to move forward. Is there any incentives designed for the farmers to see the real benefits of moving away from the way they have always operated? If you could share some practical examples.
Do they get more money, for example, than with previous?
Yeah, that is it's an excellent question, by the way. So I would like to thank for the question. But indeed, this is also part of the radical transparency, right? So what will happen if the farmers will come to the coffee washing plant, right, to deliver their beans? They get paid for their coffee per kilo, and the payment is recorded on a note and signed by the farmer, and it tells that farmer has received this amount for the number of beans delivered. That as a receipt is also available on our platform, although being hashed to the public. Auditors and companies that would like to prove their impacts can make it entirely visible by following the reference and finding the exact receipt there. So that's another good example, right? The better life of a farmer begins with better income. If a farmer has better incomes, then their children do not need to be put at work, right? And you prevent child labor for that. So by working with these receipts and a proof of sustainable income for a smallholder, you also have like an impact that was given to that farmer through that brand that was paying that farmer there.
Yeah, and that is as long as we cannot offer the farmers a fair income, their priorities will not lay in sustainability because they need to make sure that they can survive. So, I mean, what you're saying is about what you explained is how can you make sure that they get also their fair share of the whole value chain.
Exactly. That's what we need to do, and that's how it starts, right? Also, deforestation, not a great example. We can monitor the farms because we know exactly for each farmer what kind of land that they have, and by holding these images or these locations against satellite images from 2020 until now, we can also see that no deforestation has occurred whilst they were doing their business. That's good behavior, and that's rewarded with a FairChain token. And that's a FairChain token then the good behaving farmer can spend in shops to buy real products for.
And if I build on that, on the question from Pyong and what you said, you have geodata, so what you can see is you can measure any development. You spoke before that there is a kind of educational programs for farmers, and we hear a lot. I think if we talk about sustainability, we talk to move from a degenerative way of how to use our soil more to a regenerative way. Is FairChain also involved in education or training farmers how they can better, harvest, and how they can better take care of their soil in any regenerative agriculture? or
Yes.
would you say this is something that is still to be explored?
No. This is really happening in practice, and we have seen programs again from the coffee example that I was just bringing, but they also have helped farmers understand how they can use biocompost, a better compost, to help their crops in a better growth profile. And before that, they were maybe throwing chemicals at it, right? Or cheap alternatives that were not so good for the environment. That's one example of training. So that then happens there. And in terms for the tokens, they can buy like a bag of biocompost and help themselves. So it's sometimes it's a closed circuit kind of operation, right? Another example, for instance, is by making planting advices for them. For instance, they have a lot of trees around the places where they farm, and against the trees they could plant like pepper bushes. They do not take a lot of space, but they deliver a potential new source of income, and that's another good example there.
Yeah. So I'm conscious of your time, Toon. What is an advice that a suggestion that you would give to a startup who would like to dive into the same type of topic that you are now taking care of?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Catherine. You promised me an interesting question at the end of it, so you succeeded. I would say, from my experience, I've come from a long way. You explained my 30 years background and my blockchain experience. What I learned there from blockchain technology is the real blockchain is a public blockchain, is a blockchain that is meant to be open and showing all the goods and the glory to all the people that are contributing to such a blockchain. That's key important. So I've seen many examples of private blockchains where people were building private blockchain solutions. I learned to understand is not the right way forward. And for full transparency on the blockchain, you can insert different types of technologies that we have not discussed, but you can work with zero knowledge technology to deliver the proof mathematically, whilst not sharing all the guts and the glory, so to say. But people that have seen the real information can connect that to that evidence. So that's another possibility. Yes, and I would only say, find brands that dare to become like transparent value chains to the rest of the world, because I think that's the starting and the tipping point of the new changing world economy. We can no longer sustain by hidden information about value chains, by putting all kinds of nastiness in our food chains, and by not paying the people that really deserve to be paid, and that these are the farmers that are at the source of our food.
Yeah. I think it's a great insight, and I think also I would say, on behalf of all I think I just looked, we had always between 18 to 20 people following us live, so I think that's quite good. And Pyong also said, thanking for your great insight, and as I would say, Catherine and I, we are so grateful that we had you. I think your insight and the sharing of what FairChain and what is possible, what can be done, and I think we wanna lead the way going forward. And I think the example of FairChain and Mochi Coffee is for sure something that I think needs to be watched, and I'm pretty sure that there is more positive to come from that venture. So thank you very much, Toon, and thank you all for listening.
It was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, and we let you go because you have your hard deadline. Thank you so much, and thank you to our audience. Bye-bye. Next time, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.